Previously, I would actually roll out the Xpulse considering my experience with the previous Xpulse. But this time around, things are different. So as you can see, this is not a slow bike. The bike is fairly fast. The suspension combination and the chassis can help you take this bike wherever you want to go. This bike can give you the confidence that you should not have. You see how peaceful that was? I didn't even have to hold the clutch. And the way it upshifted was very beautiful. That is how forgiving this gearbox is. The tube spoke wheels can get you stranded at linkage. This bike is not for people who the highway cruising speeds would have been 10 to 15 kph. If you are in the market looking for a bike between 2 to 2.5 lakhs, previously I would actually roll out the Xpulse considering my experience with the previous Xpulse. But this time around, things are different. This is an excellent package and today we'll understand why. Let's do an acceleration test. So as you can see, this is not a slow bike. The bike is fairly fast. Thing is, you'll have to exercise a lot of restraint and you have to be a little cautious because this bike is a little too light. So because it is light, it is very easy to give unnecessary inputs and that can throw you off or make the bike unstable. So in terms of engine, there is a lot of torque on offer. Although this engine is slightly over-squared, what I see is the focus is not just towards revving, it is about providing adequate torque at lower speeds while giving you the ability to rev harder. So that is something that Hero has done well and kudos to them. The previous engine, in my opinion, was such a huge disappointment for me. Like the entire bike was the disappointment. The engine was lacking the power that it required. The rally kit, it was too heavy. It could not stop well. It was very difficult to steer that bike. Everything that you can think of was actually bad on that bike. But this is a different story altogether. Such a peaceful bike to ride in the city, and at these speeds, especially between 4.5 to 6,000 RPM, this is actually very peaceful. Here are the downshifts. What a beauty, what a beauty. Such an engaging riding experience, man. And very comfortable, very, very comfortable. See that? Third gear, it could do it peacefully. This engine does not really belong on this kind of a platform. But the way they have tuned it, they've ensured that there is good low end torque that is available. And the engine is also free to rev. It is slightly over-squared and the bore to stroke ratio is actually better than the RTX 300. Now what this does is something that I'll explain in my breakdown video. But overall, the DOHC, and by the way, this engine is also a liquid cooled engine, which means the heat dissipation on this bike is actually better. The bike gives about 25 bhp of power and about 20 Newton meters of torque. And with this, they've created a beautiful magic that you should experience. At least for a test ride, you should experience it. So we spoke about the bike, we spoke about the engine and the acceleration. Let's look at the gearbox now. I'll do 4000 RPM at each gear. First gear 4000 RPM equals 17 kph. Second gear around 25 kph. Third gear 31 kph. Fourth gear 42 kph. Fifth gear 52. Sixth gear is around 57. I'll tell you why this is important. did you see that the difference between each gear is actually not equal? So on KTMs, if I did the same exercise, let's say I rode at 4000 RPM, every change in gear equal to 10 kph. But this is different, which means Hero has played around with the gear ratios in a way where the drivability of this bike is improved significantly. And I'll tell you what happens because of that. We'll try and do a clutchless upshift and downshift. This bike does not have a quick shifter, by the way, but let's try and do clutchless upshift and downshift. First gear, second gear, third gear. You see how peaceful that was? I didn't even have to hold the clutch, and the way it upshifted was very beautiful. Like it felt like I was using the clutch. Now that is how forgiving this gearbox is. And the slip and assist clutch also does a very good job. I'll show how that works with a couple of downshifts. So 6th, 5th, 4th, we'll do an upshift, another upshift, fifth, fourth, third. You see how peaceful that is? See, some of this can be attributed to skill, but for somebody who rides a different motorcycle to get on this and easily do these upshifts and downshifts, there is a certain support required from the bike as well. This is a very, very beginner friendly motorcycle. Before we move on to the next section, I'd like to share something with you. 98% of our viewers have not subscribed to our channel. If you are one of them, and if you are getting any value out of this channel, please don't forget to subscribe. On with the episode. So we spoke about the engine and the gearbox. Now let's talk about the brakes. The bike has a 276mm front rotor, and this is an axially mounted caliper. The braking feedback on the front is good, and I'll explain how this feels when you ride it. Braking power is actually good. It's predictable. It's actually very predictable. I would say for the amount of power it has, the braking feels adequate. The front brakes actually offer good feedback. Only thing is, over time, the Nissan brake systems are known to develop some friction. So if you maintain the caliper and the brake master cylinder cleanly, I think this can last. The rear is a 220mm rotor with again an axially mounted caliper. Now the feedback from the rear is actually decent, but the engine braking gives you better confidence. And don't get me wrong, the engine braking is actually good, and sometimes I don't feel like using the rear brakes, but it is important to use both brakes in order to stabilize the bike well. Using both engine braking and the rear brakes will actually also improve your brake life and engine life together. In terms of feedback also, the brakes have sufficient feedback on offer, and the moment you get on brakes, I felt that the front stabilizes a bit more and there is better feedback as well. So that was about brakes. So we saw how this bike can accelerate, decelerate. We spoke about the gearbox. It's time to check out the handling on this bike. Start with low speed handling. So I've let go of the clutch, and the bike is at 7 kph. If you see the amount of steering corrections I am giving, not a lot of steering corrections, very peaceful actually. So this is probably the speeds at which you will ride in city traffic. Now one thing to notice, very little steering corrections when the vehicle is at straight condition, but if it turns towards one side, there is a bit of effort required to pull the bike back in. Now that is because of the bigger wheels. But compared to the other adventures, actually this is peaceful. This is manageable in the city. I wouldn't complain. So in terms of steering corrections, I would give this a 7.5 out of 10. And in terms of the throttle modulation required, there is hardly anything that is required here. So for that, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. So that was about low speed stability. Now let's try out single lane change. Single lane change is when you have to change lanes from one lane to the other. Let's do this. I'll push right, push left, stabilize. Push left, push right, stabilize. So what I see is, when I have to go to the right, the effort required to initiate it is slightly high, and it goes up with speed. That can be attributed to the gyroscopic couple. Now on the left, however, it is slightly lower. Basically, I can change to the right lane easily. Sorry, I can change to the left lane very easily. See this? See how easy it bends? Very easy, no? On the right, I have to put a little more effort. So for single lane change, in terms of effort required, there is decent effort but not too high. So I give it a 7 out of 10. In terms of the feedback and stability feel, the left side slightly understeers. I'll show you. I'll move to the right. So fairly stable and planted. But when I move to the left, see how the front goes more towards that side before coming in. So there is a bit of movement towards that. And if I am not wrong, that should amplify the moment I try double lane change. So in terms of effort, a 7 out of 10. In terms of the stability feel, again I would give it a 7 out of 10. In terms of ease of maneuvering, in terms of the ease with which it turns, now that is a 7.5 out of 10. It turns in very easily, and it is easier for newer riders also to handle. Now let's check out double lane change. Double lane change is indicative of how you would overtake a bike or car. So I'm here, I'll go to the right, come back to the same lane, stabilize. So this is where you observe it properly. Now this is an uphill, so our understeer should actually reduce, but let's give it a shot anyways. It's clean. Go. See how the front is moving a little more. So what happens is, the moment I'm trying to bring the bike back in, the bike wants to roll more than what it should. So which means there is a bit of understeering feeling. Understeering is where the front end goes away from you. It goes away from the corner. So for the double lane change, there is a lot of maneuverability on offer. So it is very easy for somebody who is a beginner to do double lane changes. So considering what is on offer, in terms of effort, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. In terms of stability, a 7 out of 10. Actually, a 6.5 out of 10 in terms of stability, only towards the left. Oh, it looks like it's rained here, but on the other side it is not. So we spoke about effort, we spoke about stability. Then in terms of maneuverability, again I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. Fairly easy to maneuver this bike. Overall, excellent beginner bike. See, I am evaluating this from an expert standpoint. I'd want to cover anything and everything that you should look for when you take a test ride. So I might sound a little critical about the things that I speak about, but in reality this is an excellent machine, and the handling on offer is also very good. It's more than adequate for beginner riders. You just have to be a little careful and not try to overdo it, because the front, bigger wheels on the front creates gyroscopic couple. What that does is it makes the steering heavier at higher speeds. The moment the steering heaviness builds up, you think that okay, the bike is stable, but that need not be the case. So considering all of this, good bike on offer, but you should definitely exercise restraint. Going into corner, I push left. You see how easily it responds. So for a beginner, if they have to make quick flicks, then this is a good option. In terms of handling, this bike can give you the confidence that you should not have. Basically, the bigger wheels, when you roll into corners, it creates so much stability or the sense of stability that it can throw you off at times. You'll end up pushing the bike more than what you should actually do. So, front section of the tire is actually smaller and it is not very difficult to get to the edge of the tire. We'll be reaching the edge of the tire at very low lean angles. This is something that first time riders should be careful of. What an engaging engine, man. Now, time to talk about comfort. I really have to talk about the rear suspension, especially the linkage mechanism here. The linkage mechanism enables longer travel on the rear without having to work against the packaging problems. Now, this is something that I will talk about more in detail in my breakdown video. Front suspension is still a telescopic suspension, but it offers a lot of travel. Compared to the front, the rear seems a bit more plush, but the front is still good. The suspension combination and the chassis can help you take this bike wherever you want to go. The comfort on this bike is actually good, especially the rear suspensions. Going over broken roads, both the front and rear suspensions are able to handle things better, especially if it's bumps and potholes. If you lower the speeds, sometimes you feel like both the wheels do sink into the pothole, but it's actually way better compared to most other bikes in this category. And the 21-inch front wheels actually help you to get over these small potholes where you don't even feel like there was a pothole. And in terms of highway stability and highway comfort, this is not a 100 kph bike. This is probably an 80 to 90 kph bike. It feels very safe and very stable at those speeds. As you get to slightly higher speeds, you feel like you're stressing the engine a little more, and this is a bike that you would chill on. So it's best if you treat it that way as well. And on rumble strips like that, probably because this bike has seen a crash, the front and rear was moving a little. Overall, city comfort, very good. Highway comfort, decent. Only thing is, the speed is around 80 to 90 kph where you can cruise peacefully. For a beginner, even I tend to cruise around 90 to 95 kph and sometimes at 100. So that way, there is a restriction on the cruising speed, but for the price you pay, I think this is more than adequate. Let's talk about the ergonomics. As you can see, for a short person like myself, the previous Xpulse, especially the rally kit, I couldn't even reach the ground. But this is amazing. I can actually reach on both sides. I am somebody who is 5'6", and you can see how comfortable this is. The weight feel on this bike is very low. It feels very light, and it gives you the confidence to take it out on trails. The rider triangle, which is the H point, the foot point, and the handlebar. You see, this is a very comfortable posture. When I have to ride in the city, it does not give me a lot of pain. And if I have to pick myself up if I have to stand, the position of the foot peg is actually such that you can lift yourself up and you can ride this vehicle while standing. Look at the display and the settings. Since it has gotten darker now, the display has changed from a light background to a dark background. Now we have different settings. We have trip 1, trip 2, then we have the fuel range, we have info, connectivity, and if I go back, let's see what other settings are available. Actually, the settings are not very intuitive. I'm trying to understand how to change the modes on the engine. Right now, it says road, but if I have to change it to off-road or another setting, I'm not sure how to do it. So there is trip 1, trip 2, fuel, info, connectivity, but not sure how to change the setting. The bike will cost you around 2.3 lakhs on road in Bengaluru. and the service intervals are 6,000 kilometers or 6 months apart. Now, in terms of mileage, you will get anywhere between 35 to 38 kmpl in the city and 40 to 45 kmpl on the highway. For somebody who is starting off their journey into two-wheelers, this makes the bike very economical. But there are a couple of things that you have to know. Speaking about service, it is very important that you talk to the people who have owned this bike in your city. See if they're happy with the service center where they are getting their bike serviced, and only then go for this bike. Hennis Garage was started with an intent to help racers go faster around the racetrack. We want to use the expertise that we built there to help you buy better products. If you are looking to buy a motorcycle or a car, you can reach out to us on WhatsApp using the link in the description. Here are 5 things we love about this motorcycle. Number 1, the engine. The engine on this bike is a very good value proposition. Number 2, the drivetrain. The drivetrain on this bike is good for both intermediates and for beginners. Number 3, the ergonomics on this bike is very comfortable and the weight wheel is big in the front. Number 4, the suspensions on this bike. The linkage suspension on the rear and the long travel suspension on the front gives you great comfort. Number 5, the value proposition at the price point. At this price point, there are very few bikes that can give you the kind of freedom that this bike does. Here are 5 things we hate about this motorcycle. Number 1, the tube spoke wheels can get you stranded at package. Number 2, the plastic quality on this bike would have been slightly better. Number 3, the highway cruising speeds should have been 10 to 15 kph higher. Number 4, the dealer network is something that can be a hit or a miss. So it is very important for you to check whether a dealer is available, a good dealer is available, and then go for this bike. Number 5, the headlamps on this bike would have been slightly better. Who should buy this bike? This bike is for someone who is starting off on their adventure journey. If majority of your use case is in the city, you're expecting good mileage, this is definitely a bike that you can go for. Who should not buy this bike? This bike is not for people who would want to spend majority of their time on the highways at 100 kph or beyond. Thank you for watching this video until the very end. If you enjoyed this review, you'll probably also like the KTM Adventure review. So check that out. Let's try something interesting.